Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Laura Carlson, and I am the Spina Bifida Association's volunteer research coordinator and researcher. I am also an adult with spina bifida, and I teach at Benedictine University. Welcome to a special discussion today in partnership with Novartis about genetically targeted technologies, or GTTs for short. In today's interview, we have the privilege of speaking with Sara Struwe, President and CEO of the Spina Bifida Association. With a deep commitment to education, advocacy, research, and support for individuals with spina bifida, Sara leads efforts to improve both the quality of life and long-term outcomes for our community. Welcome, Sara, and thank you for joining us to talk about this important and exciting topic.
Laura, thanks so much. It's nice to be here with you today.
Okay. Well, my first question, Sara, is what are genetically targeted technologies?
Oh, wow. In kind of the simplest terms, you can think of them as tools and innovative methods they're used to genetically modify our building blocks of our body. So, DNA is at the core of everything, and these technologies can actually modify or change or influence the genetic material that's within all organisms. They're used to target specific therapeutic or agricultural purposes. These technologies allow scientists around the globe to target genes and genetic sequences, to alter them, repair mutations, or introduce new material into your genetics. So they usually work by combining proteins and nucleic acids that are in specific DNA sequences in a genome, and they bind different sequences together and kind of allow for things to happen like deleting a gene or repairing a gene that's mutated or inserting a new gene, or which is a new trait or function for a gene into your DNA.
Thank you so much. That was a very informative explanation and very easy to follow. So thank you. I'm sure many people appreciate that definition. So thank you.
Well, it took me a
How,
while to wrap my head around it. So,
yeah, how might these GTTs help people with spina bifida in the future?
well, so we really don't know at this point in time exactly what could happen with it. But if you want to think about the things that challenge people with spina bifida the most, it's not the spina bifida per se, but it's the conditions that go along with it. So, incontinence of your bladder or bowel, wounds often accompany people who have spina bifida. There are all kinds of different things that happen to a person with spina bifida, that we hope that this technology could actually be able to make life better for those people. So the whole point of the Mini Act, which is part of what we're here to talk about, is really to protect that technology so we can make sure that it's available and able to be used in the future for all kinds of different things. So we really don't know exactly what it could be used for, but the possibilities are pretty overwhelming.
That's awesome. And that sounds so promising. Thank you. And you brought up the Mini Act, and my next question was going to be about the Mini Act. It's a proposed legislation before Congress right now, and it relates to these genetically targeted technologies.
Right.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on how this Mini Act is important and how it means for GTTs?
Sure. So in the short term, it stands for the Modernizing the International Neglected Disease Insect and Vector Control Act. No wonder we call it the Mini Act, right?
Well,
And it's a piece of legislation that is going before Congress that aims to advance the development and the regulation of these new technologies so that they can be used to address diseases and other issues. It's particularly focused on GTTs. And the Mini Act is really meant to accelerate the development of GTTs for disease control, to create a regulatory framework so we know how to use it, so that we can be ethical in its use, and strengthen the public health and global health partnerships, and support public awareness and ethical oversight for this technology. That's really important. We don't want anybody out there just using it for um, nefarious means. We want it used for a good purpose.
That's very, very important. And thank you. I now have a better understanding of how the Mini Act, if passed, really supports genetically targeted technologies. And you've touched on this a little. Would you expand on how the Mini Act is also important for advancing healthcare in general for people with spina bifida?
So think of it as a framework that we can utilize to make sure that people with spina bifida and their needs are considered over time as we do understand this technology better and it gets developed and utilized a little bit wider. So we want it to make sure that it's done safely, it's done in the ethical realms, that people understand what's happening, they give their permission. There are no unintended side effects or anything of that nature. And we want to make sure that all of that is spotlighted and get policymakers and the public to think about this potential across the healthcare spectrum. So for people with spina bifida or anyone who has a healthcare challenge. And for spina bifida, this legislative attention could translate into more therapies and into a broader regulatory environment for these treatments and to increase research in this field, which could really help our community in the future.
It sounds like it's a very important piece of proposed legislation. What can we do? What can the spina bifida community do to help get this proposed mini act passed?
So we'll be launching a campaign before long in which we're going to ask members of our community to reach out to their members of Congress to advocate in support of this act. It will be a coordinated effort that we will advertise through social media, email, all the traditional ways that we do it. And if people are really interested, we have a new forming public policy and advocacy committee. They can certainly reach out to me and we can get you connected with that committee if you'd like to as well. So those are just a couple of ways that you can be a part of this. And we hope that people will take this information, think about it, ask questions, have some conversations, talk with physicians about it and researchers, and hopefully be supportive in our efforts to do this.
Thank you. I'm going to look forward to that campaign and identifying the way that best fits me to get involved, like writing members of Congress, which you all can do, and encouraging those watching to do that, as well as perhaps, as you mentioned, the Public Policy Advocacy Committee. That's awesome. So thank you for that. What do you think is the most exciting part about GTTs for people with spina bifida?
Well, I think it's the unknown technology. What the possibilities are vast at this point, and it's actually um, when you think about it, we don't know tons about spina bifida, and we do know that um, it's not typically caused by a specific genetic condition or a gene or um, anything like that. But the more research we do in this, the more we can understand and maybe start to tease out some of the underlying causes that creates a situation where a child is born with spina bifida, and how can we improve their lives. It's not so much change their lives, but just improve their lives, because it's really, one of the things I've learned in this organization is that it's not so much about the spina bifida per se, but it's a piece of what makes people feel like who they are, and it kind of makes them them. And so
Mhm.
it's not that we want to change that, but we just want life better for people, so that they live longer and are happier and are able to participate in society fully. So that's something that really excites me, is the possibility of kind of getting to understand the underlying conditions and how they happen and what we might be able to do to kind of mitigate some of that. I think it's the other thing that's really important is this is draws attention to new and different funding streams for research, and that's always important in the healthcare field. Um, without evidence, we don't know what we're doing, and so it's really important to do the research so that we can gather the evidence so we can let it guide us. And I think um, the other piece that we don't know about what this could do is maybe help with nerve repair down the line. So a lot of what people with spina bifida have to go through really has to do with their nervous system, central nervous system, and the harm that comes to that spinal cord during pregnancy affected by spina bifida, and that as we begin to understand more how all that works and doesn't work and what we could do to try to help people, that could actually help in the long run too. So I think those are a couple of exciting things that, when you just look at what could happen, there might be some things like that. And so it's really important so that technology is available and it's studied and it's cared for ethically and safely so that it can be utilized for things like that in the future.
Thank you. And I appreciate the underscoring of the importance of research and helping the community and the medical professionals make informed evidence-based decisions. So critical. I also love your phrase, the possibilities are vast, very exciting, and just can't wait to see what GTTs bring in the future. You've also emphasized the importance of technology. Would you speak to what the Spina Bifida Association is doing to ensure healthcare technology continues to advance?
We work in partnership with a lot of different companies and organizations um, that focus on this very thing. Most of our advocacy work at the federal level really stems in this area, is trying to make sure that um, medical technology and the equipment that people need and the devices that they need and all the services that they need are available to them. So, like I said, they can live happier, fuller, more engaged lives.
Mhm.
And so we spend a lot of time educating Congress and other executives about our issues and making sure that patient voice is included in the discussion, so decisions aren't being made without the people who have to live with it on a daily basis.
Mhm.
And we feel very strongly that that's our role, is to be that avenue of the voice of individuals with spina bifida and their families and their caregivers, um, to be present in all the decisions that are being made.
Thank you. We've talked a lot about the role of GTTs, along with the importance of that proposed legislation, the Mini Act, and give us tremendous hope for the future. Would you share your hope for the future for treatments of complications associated with spina bifida?
So my biggest hope is that we can find ways to make life easier for people with spina bifida in our community. We want to see people live longer and healthier and happier and with less illness and issues that prevent them from having the better health that they deserve. And if we can find ways to do that without multiple surgeries, if we can find other ways to better bowel and bladder management, to take care of wounds and get fewer of those for people, and any of the other multitude of complications that you can have with spina bifida, we feel like life would be a lot better for those individuals. And so that's what our hope is we can start to build that future.
I share that hope. I have one last question. Looking ahead, what is your vision for the future of spina bifida care, and how will genetically targeted technologies play a role in that care?
Oh, wow, we're just starting to scratch the surface on this topic, and um, it's just mind blowing what we don't know and what we could know, and what the possibilities are. But I think what we're asking for is to simply make sure that this technology has the chance to be developed and studied, and it's done so safely and ethically. I think that's that should be our guiding light as all the work that we do is to try to make sure that we're doing what we best can for individuals in the safest, most efficient, and effective way.
Thank you again for this incredibly informative discussion about the role of these genetically targeted technologies and the impact this new science may have on spina bifida in the future. A special thanks to our partners Novartis, for their support in allowing us to shed light on this very important topic in our community. Please stay tuned for updates on the Mini Act, as well as other ways that you can help improve the lives of people living with spina bifida. Thank you again and have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Laura. It's always nice spending time with you.
Yes, thank you. Take care.
Take care.